All right. So here we are, and welcome back. And okay, so today we're going to be talking about when the narcissist makes you doubt your reality. You know, how it happens and how to break free. So, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to think about a time where you knew something happened. Okay? You knew something happened. You remembered it very clearly. There was absolutely no doubt in your mind, like all the things that happened. But then the moment you bring it up to whoever this covert narcissist person is in your life, whoever that person is for you, the moment you bring it up to that person, they look at you like you're crazy. And sometimes they'll say things like, that never happened, you're making things up. You know, they may even say, you're really sensitive, aren't you? And then what happens is that suddenly what happens, like you're now you're not just questioning them. You're asking them a question. You're not just questioning them. You're then like internally questioning yourself. Thinking very quickly, did I misremember? Am I overreacting? Was it really that bad? And that is the gaslight effect. That is the gaslight effect. It doesn't happen all at once. It is just an accumulation of events over time, like a slow leak in your confidence. And then one day you just don't trust your thoughts anymore. And that's kind of like what the gaslight effect is. And the thing about, and I'm looking at my notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. And the thing with gaslighting, I'll be honest, I think in these times where people kind of latch on to a word and latch on to a kind of a movement, if you will, and because there's a lot of narcissists out there, there's a lot of talk and conversation about being gaslit. There's a lot of talk and conversation about narcissists. Not every person that you meet is a narcissist. And I think that when you start identifying who that narcissistic person is in your life, a lot of these things will make sense. Up until that point, it kind of sounds like you're pointing the finger, but until you've lived it, been in it, the gaslighting, it just happens. And when you realize it and you become aware of it, then you almost become pissed off because it's like, how did I let some other person do that to me? So the real meaning of gaslighting, it's not just lying and like the psychological warfare. I think a lot of people think that gaslighting means lying. And it's not just that. There is a massive crane fly. If you're not familiar with what a crane fly is, it's like it looks like a mosquito, but it's not, but they're like massive. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so it's not just lying. It's deeper than that. It's not about denying the truth. Gaslighting, in its simplest form, is about making you doubt your ability to recognize the truth at all. That fundamentally, that's what gaslighting is. And how does gaslighting work? So whatever lie that the person, your gaslighter, tells, that is the first step of gaslighting. Whatever lie that they concoct. Then comes the next piece, which is attacking your memories, saying things like, did you really remember it that way? Did it really happen that way? Sort of attacking your emotions. Why are you behaving this way? Why are you reacting this way? Or your perception. Maybe, it could sound something like, maybe you didn't hear it the way you thought you did. Just basically trying to, and people do this. People naturally do this. People will question certain things that they hear because whatever happened in their life, they may or not believe it. They may or may not know. And so initially, when posed with a question, somebody could really reply. But in the essence of a relationship with a narcissist, gaslighting is the only form of communication. And so when you start to recognize that pattern and the patterns of behavior, you realize it's just not this one-off thing. So by the time it is done, when the gaslighting happens, by the time it is done, you are then defending the very person who's deceiving you. So when it happens, they don't even need to gaslight you anymore because you are now gaslighting yourself. That's how insidious gaslighting is. That is the gaslighting effect, right? So, there are subtle ways that narcissists will gaslight you. Let me see if I can give you some real world examples. And I'm going to try, based on the prompts that I have, to come up with my own personal examples. So we'll see how that goes. So, like I said, there are subtle ways that narcissists gaslight you. And gaslighting is not always obvious. Sometimes it's very small. Sometimes it's very subtle shifts that mess with your head over time. So it shifts in community. Basically, understanding gaslighting is understanding patterns of behavior. Is to know if you've been gaslit over a period of time. It's to really think back through patterns of behavior from this individual in your life, whoever that person is for you. And so it's very subtle shifts. And over time, you start gaslighting yourself. They don't have to do it anymore. So, first example, the instant denial. Have you ever been in a situation with someone where you said something like, hey, be home by 7 p.m.? Hey, or hey, are you going to be home by 7 p.m.? It's very much a yes or no question. It really shouldn't take that, much to answer it. Actually, no, I screwed that up. So the instant denial, first example, is when, let's say your partner has come home late from something or whatever, and you expected them by 7 o'clock. For whatever reason, you expected them. So you say to this person, partner, boss, whoever this person is for you, you say, hey, you said you'd be home by 7. And their response is, I never said that. The natural response is, yes, you did. I remember. And then the narcissist could, there's so many different ways that the narcissist could answer that. But in short, however they go about answering it, the response is rooted in you. You always twist my words. You make things difficult. That's not what I said. As you can see, they twist it, and then it becomes about you even asking the question like, hey, you said you'd be home by 7. Essentially, why this sort of gaslighting works is because instead of addressing what they actually said, the person in your life makes you feel like you're being difficult for even bringing it up. So now you are defending your reactions instead of holding this person accountable for whatever they said that they would do. You know, whatever it is that they said they would do. I mean, it doesn't have to just be something where they are coming home. It could be anything where they instantly deny it and then flip it back on you, and you're holding them accountable for something that a grown person should know better. And so that's one example. Another example is when they twist your words. So you could say something like, "It hurts me when you say that." And they respond with, "Wow. So now I can't say anything without you getting upset?" So the example from my own life, one of my children has, I think, fairly severe depression. It's depression. We'll just put it that way. And so I brought up a conversation. Actually, a conversation was brought up to me by my ex-husband about my son wanting to dye his hair. And I explained to him that, hey, maybe my ex-husband and I don't get along very well. And so I explained to him, maybe if we set some boundaries and set something, then he will understand that he can dye his hair because it's a freedom of expression. And then Dad says something like, and I was like, he's got depression and that's the reason why he's not doing very well in school. Long story short, ex-husband and I go back and forth on this conversation about dyeing the hair. And he says, well, I'm trying to come up with a way to communicate with this man, my ex-husband, and nothing's working. And he just says, son needs to get good grades. I don't care if he has depression, but you and your son have come up with a solution anyway, so you do what you want to do. So instead of coming up with a solution, that's probably a very bad example, but it's the one that came up. Instead of coming up with a solution, this disordered individual incites an argument and twists my words of saying that, hey, me and said son came up with a plan and you do whatever that you want. So he's twisting my words. That's not what I said. I said, let's come up with, anyway. They will twist your words. They will twist your words, and why it works is because the conversation, and this is a perfect example, and I'm already getting hot and bothered just talking about it, but the reason why it's not about what they did. The conversation and why they twist your words is it's about the way you reacted to it. And you come up with solutions to problems to keep the peace. Not to solve the problem, just to keep the peace. Basically, if you can get this individual to stop talking, to stop mentally mind effing you, then it will go away and solve all the problems. But come on, let's be real. It doesn't solve any problems. It just creates new ones. And that's kind of like that gaslight effect. Now, I will say that my ex-husband played a very long narcissistic game. There are some narcissists that will show their colors very early on, and if you're smart and you have read up, if you just basically if they haven't broken your spirit yet, then you can get out and move on and create a better life. Then there are narcissists who will play the long game. They will string you along for years and years and years. They will play this long game because if you think about a game, they found an opponent that will give them back something. I grew up playing tennis. So if you think about it in the scheme of a tennis match, he hit a ball and I hit the ball back. In the therapy world, they call it a trauma bond, is really what that is. But it goes on until somebody stops playing the game, is essentially how a trauma bond works, and essentially how the long game goes on with the narcissist. So the long game basically is about breaking down your confidence. This is really what makes gaslighting so dangerous. It doesn't just make you doubt one conversation, it makes you doubt yourself. And it really starts very simply. It starts first when you want to defend yourself. Then you defend yourself, and then whoever you're defending yourself to, whoever this narcissistic person is in your life, whoever you're defending yourself to, they start positioning things and saying things that makes you second guess what you confidently stood on probably 5 minutes before. And if this person is consistent in your life, and this is where this long game comes in, if this person is consistent in your life, then the longer they do this to you, the more you will second guess yourself. And again, that goes back to, that's why there is this gaslight effect, is because they no longer have to gaslight you. You already do it to yourself. And then they'll find another way to gaslight you. And then you'll find another way to second guess yourself. That's what makes it so insidious, because it continues nonstop until you break the cycle. And so how do you recognize and break free from gaslighting? Number one, I don't think there's a way that you can break free from gaslighting. I think there's a way that you can understand it. I think there's a way that you can protect yourself. But I don't think that ever breaks you free from gaslighting. How do you can, I guess, break free from that individual, but you can't break free from the gaslighting, because if you continue, like in my case, at least for the next 3 years, I have to engage with this individual. So I can't do a no contact because we have children. So I'm trying to do my best to limit or stop any sort of gaslighting that comes. I guess a better way to think of it is, how do you recognize when gaslighting is happening and to take back your sense of reality? And I'll be honest, I struggle with this daily, because I still don't trust myself. I was with this individual in total for 23 years. The formidable years that I had, I spent with a narcissist. So that damage is now done. So when I tell you what I'm telling you, this is from reading. This is from learned behavior. This is from changing my own patterns, and I'm not perfect. I am not perfect, but I at least am honest. So I guess that's why I created this channel. So let's get back to it. The turning point. How do you recognize and break free from gaslighting? The first step is to pay attention to the pattern. if you keep leaving conversations feeling confused, like if you feel like you lost even when you were right, or you need to start tracking those moments. When I started doing this, I used Evernote. Is kind of how I recorded a lot of things. I just use Evernote. I think there's ways you can do it on your phone now that are a little bit easier. But if you live in a state, now check. In Texas, we're a one-party consent law state. So I can record as long as I am on I can do audio recording. But if you're going to do audio recordings of conversations with the intent to use it elsewhere legally, you need to know your laws in your state about audio, video, and whatever recording. Because I think we are in this society where we can whip out our phones and record whatever we need to record. But if you live in a state where that stuff isn't admissible, it will be very hard for you to use that if you're trying to use it for legal reasons. So, advice. Check your laws about audio and video recording when it relates to conversations, interactions, dealings with that narcissistic person in your life. But, long story short, however you choose to record and track those moments where you leave the conversation feeling confused, like you lost, even if you're right, however you make the decision to record that, just start keeping track of it. Journal them. Write them down. Keep voice memos. Make sure you timestamp them. Timestamp them. Because the more you see the pattern, the more you see how they do it to you, it is harder for the person to gaslight you. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to notice the emotional shifts. Gaslighting isn't about what is true. Gaslighting is about controlling how you feel. So if you walked into a conversation and you felt confident about that conversation, and then you leave the conversation and then you're like questioning everything, do this. Stop. Ask yourself, number 1, what just happened? Number 2, did they actually address what I said? Or did they make me feel like I was crazy? Just ask yourself that. And if you're asking yourself those questions and you're not coming up with clear answers, then again, that person is probably going to be the narcissist in your life. If you're confused if this individual is the narcissist, then if that sort of reaction happens, then that's probably your narcissist. But if you notice the emotional shift, then you can start paying attention to the pattern, which leads to step number 3 is reclaiming your reality. When you reclaim your reality, you do not need somebody else's permission to trust yourself. This is where I'm stuck. Just being honest. If you, and here's where I need to constantly remind myself of this. If you saw it, it happened. If you felt it, it was real. If something hurts you, it is valid. You do not need to get agreement from this individual to know what you did, what you experienced in life was real. You don't need their permission. But somehow, way, shape, or form, the narcissist in our life has conditioned us to think that we need to get their permission. And we don't. So here's the truth. Gaslighting only works when you believe them over yourself. And if you are watching this, that means you're already waking up to it. That means you're aware of the gaslight effect. And your awareness is part of that power to break free. So let me say this. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. And you do not need to explain yourself to people who refuse to hear you. So, I know I've rambled on a lot. This is why I do these live, because I don't know what it is about doing it live, but I just stick to the facts. I say what I need to say, and I don't get caught up in the editing. There's things right now that I'm thinking to myself, ooh, I probably should edit that out. But you know what? I did this live. If somebody watched live, great. If you didn't, you can watch it on the replay. But basically, if this video hits home for you, I want you to start practicing one thing. If this video hits home for you, I'll say it again. If this video hits home for you, I want you to practice one thing. Every single time you start to second guess yourself, stop, pause, breathe. Pick one of those. You don't have to do all three. But stop, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I am allowed to trust my own mind. That's it. So, drop a comment below if you've ever felt like you're losing your grip on reality because of someone else's manipulation. If you're ready to break free, hit subscribe. We're in this together. Until next time, I'll see you later.